Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been 2 weeks, but we're back down here in Porchville. What's happening, Matthew? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great.
Heard you got sunburned.
Oh, I got super sunburned.
You know this is Florida, bro.
Yeah.
I've told you, sunscreen, you're supposed to carry it. You're from Wisconsin.
Dude, it was SPF 50,
Wisconsin.
and I still look like I look like an apple.
You should have doubled up. You know they
I
actually...
did double up.
No, I mean, you should have gotten the SPF 100.
Do they actually make
You
that?
should have just worn a sheet or a blanket.
Just not going to the beach.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Yeah, that probably would have solved all my problems.
So we're back for episode 42 with, see?
Lennifer.
Damn it, right off. Sorry. The founders of the Alalchua Chronicle, Jennifer Cabrera and Len Cabrera. I probably should have done a Len and Jennifer Cabrera or something. How y'all doing today?
We're doing great.
Welcome to Porchville. Thank you guys very much for coming. I met you at Springs County event back on July 4th, and Tim Martin, he pointed me in your direction, said, that lady started a newspaper. You should go talk to her. I said, you're right, because I don't know anybody else that has started a paper. So, Alalchua Chronicle, people can go to alachuachronicle.com, check it out, or Facebook and all that stuff. Where did this idea come from?
So we were at a point in our lives where we are having to make some decisions about what to do when we grew up.
Yeah.
I'd worked for my dad's business for almost all my adult life, and he retired. And I had to figure out what to do with myself. And every morning when I read the Gainesville Sun, I would start yelling at it.
Yeah.
Because they have a narrative to push, and it's very annoying. And even when the articles aren't terrible, which they often are, but even when they aren't, the headline will blare something that often contradicts the article itself.
If it's spelled correctly, too. I know that a lot happens.
So I said, I can do this better than they can by myself.
Yeah.
Right? They have, I don't even know how many reporters they have, 5 or I don't know, not
That's
counting.
it. I mean, they got a whole building down there on
they do
13th somewhere.
And it's most of it's mothballed. But I mean, seriously, the New York Times used to rent part of it, but they don't anymore. They've completely outshrunk that building.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I decided I could do a better job, and I think that my primary purpose, even now, but it's started out, is we need better coverage of city and county commission meetings because people need to know what's going on. Locally
is where it starts.
100% look, and that's why I named it Alalchua Chronicle.
Yeah.
I completely focus on Alachua County.
Yeah, I like that. And that's the point of it, is to stay here, stay local, and give the best possible comprehensive coverage of what's going on right here in our backyard.
Right. I mean, I figure everybody has their own sources for national news. Like, you can go on Facebook or Twitter or look up your favorite website or whatever. There's decent sources for state news, but all we got for local is the Gainesville Sun.
Yeah, and it's usually pretty terrible.
It's terrible.
So you said, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah.
And did it.
I just did it.
How do you go? How does one start?
So it's not actually a newspaper in that there's no paper involved.
We don't kill trees like the Gainesville.
Well, but I mean, hey, who's reading paper anymore nowadays anyway?
No.
You know, I've been reading more books lately in the past 3 months since I discovered Audible. Apparently, I'm a little behind on that.
I've had an Audible subscription since 2001.
Really?
If you want to know how far behind you are.
Jesus, you got to get. Do you maintain the original rates on that? Because that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, you get grandfathered into like the $2 a month.
I don't know. I don't know what they charge now, but it's
I've been reading more that way though, just because I'm listening to
It's
it and all that
fantastic.
sort of stuff. I mean,
Whoa!
I'm reading
That
like
doesn't count as reading.
no, it does.
Of course
it
it
does.
does.
I'm attaining knowledge, all this wonderful knowledge that I had not really bothered with for so long because I just didn't have the time to sit down and read a 1,000-page book or something. But I mean, on topics I'm fascinated by, and I'm actually listening to a book called Chaos, I think it is. It's about CIA and Charles Manson and all this stuff, really crazy stuff. So I recommend it though. But yeah, so that's where people are getting their information from nowadays, by and large, anyway. So I don't think it matters that you're not actually running print every day. But
So we built a website.
you know,
It's not hard to do. It's just WordPress, right?
Right.
And then we just started writing.
yeah,
I mean, I run press releases and I cover city and county commission meetings, and that's most of what I do
yeah.
until COVID.
And what happened with that?
So I realized early on that people needed a trusted source for local COVID data. And so I started keeping all my own data, which means I have, a spreadsheet that goes back all the way to March, and I can compare anything. And as time went on, so for example, my thing lately is that every day you see headlines screaming out, particularly last week it was bad. Florida reports 273 deaths today, record deaths.
Yeah,
And I said, those didn't happen yesterday. If you think about it, that's not even possible. It takes a while for death certificates to make their way through the system. They typically only know about maybe 10 at most yesterday. And with some help, I found the link where Florida keeps that data, except that they only show today.
right.
Today they show the number of deaths on every date since March. And then tomorrow it will change.
Okay.
So I started copying it down every day and then tracking how many they add to each day.
Right.
And I publish a chart of the totals and of how many were added each day. There's little stacked bars. And what you find out is that those 273 deaths, in one time last week, it was spread over 45 different days. It's not that scary when you look at it that way.
Wow.
So a lot of what I'm doing is putting data in context, but it's extremely time consuming.
Yeah.
And so I've cut back on some of that. I used to do a lot more public records requests and really digging into documents, and I've done less of that since COVID.
So what does this entail? I mean, now that you're trying to get the word out there, the Alalchua Chronicle exists. What does that entail? What are you guys doing? How are you doing that?
That's the part we're not very good at. I'm a detail person. I'm a get into depth in things person. Neither of us are salespeople.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're struggling. And we've been very fortunate that during election season, a lot of politicians saw us as a good place to advertise. But now that the primaries are over, we're definitely looking for advertisers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have car magnets, which people can contact us if they want one. We do Facebook advertising. That's really the main. I mean, almost all of my readers come from Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really two ways you can access Alalchua Chronicle. You can go to alachuachronicle.com. And if you want to get your daily newspaper, you can put your email address in the box. And then every morning you get an email with all of yesterday's stories. Or you can follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, and then it just shows up in your feed. But anyway, so advertising on Facebook is really the main thing I've done. That's
awesome. I mean, that's probably the most beneficial way I found. I mean, that's pretty much all we do. Word of mouth and Facebook and stuff like that. That's how things are done nowadays. Everything's online, so it just makes sense. Len, how do you fit into this puzzle?
I do what she tells me.
Oh, well, then there you go. That's how you're supposed to do it, man. That's how we all survive.
I had been doing a monthly column for the Gainesville Sun.
Right.
And it was a little frustrating after a while because it was a very rigid 700 words.
Yeah.
And it's like I would just spout something and it would be 800 words.
Yeah.
And then by the time you cut that 100 words out, it doesn't say what it originally said.
Right.
And this is just stifling. So now when I write stuff for her, I don't know, I think I had one that was like 1,600 words the other day.
He just writes whatever he wants to write. I don't have any length limitations.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Might as well.
Anyway, he crunches a lot of data for me.
I do the data. I do some research sometimes. Mostly I do the opinion pieces.
Yeah.
And when Gainesville Sun was bought by Gannett or merged or however that business deal worked, they stopped running mugshots.
Yeah, I had a theory about that. Was it just because they were bought? Because it was right about the same time that all the rioting popped off and all that stuff. And my theory was, maybe they've pulled this down so you can't see who the people being arrested for these different,
Well, it's a combination of
stuff
things.
like that charges are.
I have a better story, and it's because one of my hobbies is starting conspiracy theories.
Brother, you are in the right place.
I figured I was.
Let
So
me call David Bora. That's what we need to call our
That's
man.
exactly what I thought.
Conspiracy theory expert David
We
Bora.
got to get Bora.
I go the other way
We're
around.
going to do that at one time. We'll do that sometime.
I go the other way on the mugshots thing.
Lay
They
it on
claim that
me.
they want to take it down because it reinforces negative stereotypes. I'm like, how is it a stereotype? You are publishing what actually happened. It's a freaking fact.
It's just truth. It's not skewed. It's just, hey, look, here's some truth.
Yeah. So my theory on it is they don't want it published anymore so that they can just start locking up people who don't wear masks and then you don't know about it.
What happened to truth, guys?
There you go.
What happened to truth?
I will say.
There's reality.
I will say, just to push back.
That was a joke.
I know. The George Floyd and all of that happened at around the same time
Yeah.
as District 8, our local judicial circuit, changed the API that the Gainesville Sun was using to get its mugshots.
Gotcha.
They would have had to invest time.
Okay, I got to ask a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interject. What is API?
Advanced Programming Interface, is that right?
That's why I'm asking.
Oh, you don't know? You're the network guy. So it's a convention or a protocol for accessing something on somebody else's website. So what it says is send this command with these parameters, and we send back what you want.
Gotcha.
So Gainesville Sun had the code that they just ran on the District 8 website, or 8th Circuit, I guess it was. I'm District 8 because I'm thinking medical examiner, but Circuit 8th Circuit.
Yeah.
They just ran it on their website all the time. Application Programming Interface, and back
Nailed
came
it.
back came the pictures. Okay,
Right.
And then it changed, and they would have had to hire somebody to write new code. And at that time, all of this happened, and it became politically incorrect
Wow.
to
Yeah.
publish mugshots. And so
Okay.
Gannett actually put up, I think it's a company-wide policy anyway at Gannett, because of the, what did you call it?
Reinforcing stereotypes.
Reinforcing
Yeah.
stereotypes. And so I think that just all kind of happened within a week or two
Yeah.
of each other. And then, of course, the Gainesville City Commission got involved and wanted to, they wrote a letter to the Gainesville Sun encouraging them to not start again publishing mugshots. And I don't know, Alligator did a story on it last week, and they quoted us because we're the only ones publishing mugshots now. But
Yeah.
my readers reached out to me and they said, please, can you pick up this? And it turns out to not be easy because I haven't taken the time to figure out how to get them in it with any kind of automatic. I'm sure there's a way. I'm just swamped myself.
I can tell you, it if you are running it, it's going to draw traffic towards your site. I mean,
those are always some of my biggest stories
there's
every day.
3 or 4 guys in my office that looked at Alachua mugshots Gainesville mugshots every day.
Yep.
Like they just, what's going on?
Yeah.
Lunch.
That's how they pick up their dates.
Yeah. Some of them. You never know.
Yeah, no, it gets good views every day.
Yeah.
So I literally go 3 or 4 times a day to the jail site and just download them.
Wow.
And then every morning he takes it with, so the jail actually sends out a jail booking log to all the media in town. Everybody gets that. He takes that, he matches it up with the mugshots, he puts out an article. So that's one of his jobs every morning.
It's a great, cheery way to start your day.
It really is.
That really starts your day. What has the criminal element been up to all evening?
But we can tell you, talk about stereotypes, we can tell you what the most common,
Don't let your kid tattoo their face.
or their neck.
Seems to be
Oh,
a bad
God.
The
sign.
most common thing, the thing that more of these people have in common than anything else is neck tattoos.
Really? Neck tattoos. I got a sister that had a neck tattoo.
Nick, I swear to God, if any of your kids get neck tattoos, I'm coming after you.
I don't think it's going to happen. Not anytime soon.
If my dogs get neck tattoos,
Oh.
I hope you come after me.
You got a whole other problem then.
Yeah. Yeah. How do my dogs actually know how to get neck tattoos?
So how
They'd have to be 18 too. So.
that's
Well,
That's
in
gonna be a
dog ears,
problem.
they got it.
what how is the views been so far? I mean, how's the response been?
I think we're doing really well. I mean, if you look at our views, the curve just
Yeah.
goes up every month, and we're up to about 5,000 views a day.
That's excellent.
Higher
That's
than that.
excellent.
Well, our average is higher because we have a few days here and there that it goes through the roof. for some reason or another.
Like based on different articles or stuff like that. That makes sense. I mean, when we had Tim on the show for the Springs County show, it was our biggest episode to
Well,
date.
he'll promote it.
He's
yeah.
got a lot of relatives.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got a lot of friends. Is based on the July 4th event. That was pretty successful. So, and you guys had a ton of people over there talking about what you're doing and everything. So, that's got to help. What when I was asking about Truth though, like what has happened to Truth? I mean, you guys got into doing this to get the message out there of what's really going on in the world, in our local world, our local backyard here. What are we missing by not having the Alalchua Chronicle? Like what were we missing before?
The way I put it is that if you look at, for example, the Gainesville Sun's coverage of a city commission meeting, what they write is true, but it will be completely different from what I write.
How so?
So, for example, this commission meeting they had, I don't even remember what the Gainesville Sun wrote about yesterday. I think they wrote about accessory dwelling units or something.
The short version is that the Gainesville Sun will say what the commission wants you to hear.
Yeah.
Well, they'll kind of applaud them.
She writes what they actually said.
Right. So, for example, the Gainesville Sun wrote about how they're closing down. It might have been the Alligator, I forget. It's swimming together. But they about how they're closing down a new camp that has popped up outside Grace Marketplace. Now, remember.
This is like a new homeless camp.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, they closed down. They told us they were closing down Dignity Village. We were out there in March. They told us they were within a week
Now
of closing down
what was
Dignity
Dignity Village exactly?
So it's a camp outside the fence of Grace Marketplace for people who
Okay.
didn't want to come in and follow the rules.
But now, and this was just created by people. This wasn't like a sanctioned sort of thing.
It was
Okay.
just purely random, organic.
Not hurting anybody, just out there doing their
Yeah, but
thing.
there was a lot of violence and a
Oh.
lot of drugs, and drugs and alcohol can lead to violence, and so there was a lot of stuff going on.
If they're
there.
done right.
Yeah. So anyway, they tried to bring them back
That's
in.
not true. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They tried to bring them back in, and more popped up. So
Right.
now they're trying to clean that camp out.
Gotcha.
They've got 25 people camping outside the fence again. So anyway, the Gainesville Sun talked about that.
Yeah.
I talked more about commissioners trying to get UF to cancel football. And if they can't cancel football, they want to close restaurants during football games because
Yeah.
heaven forbid people enjoy football games.
Now, I saw an article that you wrote right before. A friend of mine actually shared it on Facebook. That's how I found it. And I saved it here. So it's just, of course, when I say I saved it, then I go to open it up, and it's like, oh, I can't find it. It was about the restaurants. I got it right here. City Commission proposes closing restaurants during football games. Now, are we talking all the restaurants? Are we talking downtown, midtown?
They talked about how they would draw that line.
Yeah.
How they would. So they talked about maybe midtown, kind of close to campus. But then they said, well, we have to really think about how to set these boundaries because we can't have people just going across the street to Celebration Point in the county and then coming back with the virus.
Plus, it would have to go through the equity subcommittee to make sure you're spreading the virus equally around the city.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that happens.
I have no idea what that means.
That's why you should be reading the Alachua
You would know all about
Chronicle.
equty if you read the Gainesville.
That's why you should be on the city commission, because you have no idea what the hell's going on. Sorry, I'm a taxpayer in Gainesville still, so I'm not thrilled about it. My taxes, all that
They're
stuff.
the only ones, the
Crazy.
only local taxing authority that did not reduce taxes this year.
Really?
Alachua
Man.
County went with their rollback rate, which if you don't know what that is, that just means that they decreased the rate so that with increased property values, they would get the same amount of money. So they don't lose any money, but you pay the same.
Of course.
But if they had kept the rate the same, you'd pay more. Okay, so they didn't. City of Gainesville kept the amount the same as last year, meaning you will pay more.
Great.
And
Why am I not surprised?
Congratulations, Nick.
Thank you.
And the fire assessment.
And the fire assessment,
And
that'll stay exactly the same, so you won't pay more.
GRU.
So
GRU always goes up.
I worked in restaurants as a kid, right there in Midtown, across from Ben Hill Griffith Stadium. Go Gators! And anybody that worked at a restaurant in there can tell you, you make your year during those game days. You live and die by those Saturdays. You know,
Exactly right.
if there's a couple years ago, I think the opening day game got rained out, and it was a disaster for local restaurants. So now they want to close restaurants for all the game days.
Yeah.
What?
Sure. They're
How does that compute? How do they get to decide, like, oh, we're just going to basically run you out of business? Because that's what's going to happen.
they're keeping us safe.
Oh, man. I think I'd rather take my chances, personally.
You know, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
I know.
You're not going to
I
be able to
know.
say go Gators anymore either, because they're going to interpret that as go somewhere else, which is kind of.
You're right. You're right, and it makes me sad,
At
but
some point, the whole campus will move down to Marion County.
yeah, probably.
Or you could also just say, go to my funeral.
Yeah, but probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't died yet, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's. Don't get me wrong. I think that we have a real disease or virus going on in the world, but at this point, I'm ready for whatever. I don't even care.
I told my family in late March, pretty early on. I'm like, I apologize to you in advance if I'm one of the people that has a bad reaction to this and I die.
Yeah,
But I can't live like this.
yeah. What are you gonna do? We can't stay like this forever. You
No.
can't stay closed up and inside. I mean, we did a few weeks where we were remote and we had, we did Zoom calls for shows and stuff like that. And they were fun. They were fine, But there's nothing like getting together, sitting here, talking around the table, looking people in the eye and having real conversations, which is why we started this show in the first place, to do that very thing. So to not do that, it just doesn't make sense. I can't do that forever.
So
I'm
let's
just
talk
not
about
gonna waste my
that
time.
for a minute. Harvey Ward said yesterday that he's very sorry that so many people are unemployed, but 31 people have died. Let's talk about that. So we pulled public request, the medical examiner spreadsheet of local COVID deaths.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole article on it on the site. If you're interested, you should definitely go look. The people who are dying in Gainesville are very sick people.
Yeah.
They're old.
Yeah.
There are a few that are young, but the youngest one, 50-year-old, I've been told by a doctor who read the description that was an acute hypertensive crisis. He
Yeah.
did not die of COVID. He had a positive COVID test.
Right.
This is what we're seeing. We're seeing people die. 2 of them are listed as accidents as the primary cause, but they had a positive COVID test.
Yeah.
So they're COVID tests. This is how we code things. We're coding anyone with a positive COVID test as a death.
And I think there's been something a lot talked about on that point, because hospitals are going, well, look, we have this opportunity to get extra money if we say this or that, or COVID death, and so they're doing it because why not? Because everybody else is doing it. Is what I've heard.
That's an element of it for
Yeah.
sure. But understand that hospitals do not have to put COVID as the primary cause of death. They don't even
Right.
have to put it on the death certificate. If they even treat them for it, they still get the money.
Yeah.
So it's at the death certification level that this is happening. That people aren't looking at this critically and saying, was this really COVID or not? And the reason is political.
Yeah.
The reason is that very early on, all the reporters went after Trump and DeSantis and everybody else, but this really came down from the federal level.
Yeah.
Of you're undercounting. Don't undercount. So Dr. Birx went out and she said, look, anybody that has a COVID test, we're counting them as a COVID death so that nobody can accuse us of undercounting.
Yeah.
And what's happened is we're probably at least double counting.
Yeah.
So none of these numbers, the 31 people that died are tragedies,
Of course.
but they were people at the end of their lives,
Sure.
which is why I don't think we're going to see a huge excess deaths by the end of the year, because I think most of the people that are dying would have died this year anyway. There are always exceptions. I
Sure.
don't want anybody to think I'm saying it's a hoax or anything else. There are
Yeah.
always people that have the bad reaction, that have the cytokine storm, whatever it is. It's fairly rare.
But we can't just shut everything off because people because there's, 31 people here that have died.
Not only
It doesn't
can't
work
we,
that way.
it's immoral to do that.
Yeah.
We are seeing, I listen to a police scanner. I hear suicide attempts almost every day. We are losing
I
more
believe it.
people. It's more and more, we're getting evidence that we're losing more people to suicides, overdoses, heart attacks that people don't want to go to the hospital for, cancers that aren't getting screenings in time. All of those are going to dwarf the actual COVID deaths.
Yeah.
You want to read some of these?
Lay it on me, Len. What do you got?
Well, of the 31, we actually had 39.
That was the other interesting. It doesn't match.
And this is kind of my little pet peeve. I was an analyst in the Air Force, and it drove me nuts that we would have data systems that we actually maintained ourselves. And it was my job to go digging around and report stuff back to some general who wanted to do something and wanted me to justify their answer. And I'm looking at the data thinking, this is crap. But okay, I can say whatever you want because the data just isn't there. I don't want to get into too many of those stories, but I mean, I actually watched an airplane fly from a certain place to another place, and according to all of our data systems, it was an empty airplane that flew there and back with nothing on it. And then when I called around, I asked the pilots who were supposed to be tracking it, oh yeah, it did what it was supposed to do. Look, it went here, here, here. He gave me all the flight times. I said, it's a cargo plane. Its mission is not to log flying hours. Its mission is to move cargo. What did it move? I don't know. I actually had to call the port, the airport where it was supposed to offload, and they told me, oh yeah, it was carrying a 70-ton crane, but they didn't have the proper equipment to offload it. And I'm like,
what the?
You got to be freaking kidding me. So this plane flew there and back with a set because they didn't want to stay there because they may get shot at, so they flew back. 70-ton crane back and forth, but in our data system, it looked like an empty plane flew there and back. I'm like,
that's got to be
that's the kind of stuff I'm used
fuel.
to. And now we're working with data systems between the states. So you got the Florida Department of Health that's kind of compiling all these COVID statistics from all the different county reports, and they're putting it together. And you just see these inconsistencies from day to day. Same thing with the jail booking log.
And that's sort of what I've said from when we started doing this all the way back at the beginning of this whole thing was. People just want to know what the hell's going on. They just want clean, clear facts. They want to know what the deal is, what we're facing, what the risks are. Do I need to stay inside? Because if you're going to tell me I got to stay inside, then I'll stay inside. If I don't got to stay inside, then cool. Let's just go. Let's just keep on living. They just want to know what the hell to do. They just want to be told yes, no, right, wrong. It's the back and forth that's been driving everybody nuts. I mean, 2 months ago, it was a basket case. I'm not going to lie. It was just I'm a family man, wife, 2 kids, all that good stuff. And, I mean, if you listen to what the hell's going on in the news every day, there's so much indecision. And it got to a point for me where I had to turn it off. I had to get off the social media and everything because it was just, it was toxic, and nothing was doing it, and there was no calming that at all. It was just constant, misinformation from all these different angles, all different directions.
All calculated.
Yeah.
To make you panic.
That's what I'm feeling. Yeah. That's what I've been saying.
That's a really good way to. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Because I actually stopped listening to some of my favorite entertainment shows because that's what it really ended up coming down to. Was just it's a calculated way to make you panic and to make you think that things are really, really, really a lot worse than what they are. But I mean, I do still I put on my mask and I keep my distance and stuff like that. I take my precautions. But there's some people out there that are just no, the only way to fix things is for everybody to stay at home 24/7, never leave their house.
It just postpones it. That's all it does.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the longer, if we had let the students stay, I firmly believe this, and there are a lot of scientists and epidemiologists that believe this. If we had left the students here in March, let it just spread through the student population until we developed herd immunity in Gainesville, we would have been done with this by May.
Yep.
But the longer we postpone things by keeping everything shut down, telling everybody to stay at home, our biggest challenge is keeping it out of nursing homes because that's where it's going to be the most deadly. It's not going to be deadly to college students.
Yeah.
Very, very rare for a college student to have a healthy college student to have a bad reaction. So we have to keep it out of nursing homes. The longer we spread this out, the more it gets into nursing homes.
Yeah.
We are killing old. I get accused every single day of killing old people because I'm trivializing it.
You got a lot of that going on on Facebook and stuff.
More on Twitter, but
you're not supposed to read the comments.
Oh my gosh!
Don't read them. Don't do it.
So I get anyway because if you're not pushing panic, then people might get complacent.
Yeah.
And then grandma will die.
Which is what the masks do, make them complacent.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wear the gator mask, which apparently
Duke says you're not supposed to.
Is 110% more likely to spread the disease.
Probably.
So I don't understand how
they're pre-coded.
It's actually more likely to spread the disease.
Yeah,
but
we don't wear masks.
That's what I wear, and that's all I wear. You know,
we don't.
You don't wear them at all. Now, if you got to go into the store, does anybody give you a hard time or anything?
Not really yet.
No.
If they do, we don't go back.
Yeah, exactly. We only go to restaurants that don't make you do the. Think about how stupid the restaurant rule is. Wear it to your table and then take it off for an hour while you eat and drink it.
Wear it for this 6-foot walk between the door and the table.
Right.
Yeah, that does not make any sense to me.
Also, CDC and Department of Health, everybody, a contact. That's a person you are likely to have gotten it from or to given it to.
Yeah.
Okay. Greater than 15 minutes, less than 6 feet.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Both of those.
Okay.
Less than 6 feet, greater than 15 minutes. When does that ever happen in a grocery store? It doesn't.
Just those times when we all, hug and, hang
for
out.
15 minutes.
Talk about
in the old days, pre-COVID, you would run into a neighbor.
I'm going to have to say, usually when I walk into a grocery store, I want to make out with an old lady for 15 minutes.
I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so maybe not that.
That CDC rule, by the way, is regardless of whether they are wearing a mask.
Really?
Yeah.
But UF has decided that masks are magic because they don't define contacts the way CDC does. UF says if you're wearing a mask, you're not a contact. That lets them put everybody in the classroom as long as they're wearing masks. And then if somebody gets sick, they don't have to test and isolate everybody else in the classroom because they're not a contact. Either they are or they're not. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't believe it's a danger to sit in a in a classroom with people. And I think if young people are getting it, that's actually good.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that we need to think about right now is how am I going to make out with that old lady if she's wearing a mask?
Well, I do know that Matt and I have talked a lot about this. Matt's father is older and he's been going through some health issues, and he's still is he still at the hospital or is he staying at the house now?
He is currently back at the hospital.
So he's back at the hospital,
but
he's staying to himself, when he's not at the hospital.
Yep.
And I think that for the time being, till we get this vaccine lined out, that's what people need to do. People that are sick, people that are high risk, let's stay home. Let's figure out how to take care of those people, get them paid, make sure their rent's not, some landlord isn't going to throw them out because he's worried about 5 months of rent or some crap like that. Let's make it work.
And as a society, we have more resources to do that
100%.
if everybody's out working.
Yeah.
Everybody that's healthy and young, out doing their jobs, kids in school, have everything working like it normally does. Now we have delivery resources available, supply chain resources available. Right now, the stores are still empty at the grocery store.
The level of panic is just amazing. The propaganda that's been pushed on, it's... the last column I wrote, I referenced a survey where they did 1,000 people, and in the U.S., the average response on the percentage of the population that had died, the average was 9%. That means several people thought it was even more than that. 9% would be about 30 million people.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. These people, it's like I don't know how much CNN you have to watch to get that brainwashed.
Yeah.
The actual percent is something near 0.04%.
Right.
It's amazing. And then if you look at the distribution, they think that it's much more deadly for young people, especially with all this talk about you can't let the kids go back to school.
Yeah, that's something that's sort of I have a lot of friends who are teachers. I got a lot of family who are teachers. I don't know. I don't know. I work in a chemical factory, inhaling chemicals all day. What do I know? I got half a brain up here. I don't know. What I do
That's
know,
been going on for a long time, Nick.
what I do.
But he found out how to get paid for it.
Yeah, right. What I do know is the American Pediatrics Association.
American Association of
AAP or APA.
Yeah, like
one
APS,
of those.
Something like that.
The pediatrics doctors,
Mm-hmm.
the powers that be, said, hey, we need to get kids back in school.
Yeah.
Historically, they're a very conservative group. By conservative, I mean they're not just willing to throw out those recommendations willy-nilly, from what I understand. So, all along, the narrative has been trust the experts, trust the doctors.
Only the ones they want you to. Because anybody
right.
that's they don't like gets pulled off of YouTube and gets smeared.
Yeah, which like I understand that whole lady in the demon semen, all that stuff. Like I get
the
that.
Frontline Doctors
I
video.
get that was weird. I don't know the story on all of them. I mean, I believe they were legitimate doctors. I think that anybody who's a legitimate doctor probably gets a say in this. I mean, those guys, they go to school forever. I mean, I don't know.
Here's
Again,
the thing
I'm
about just one point about them. We're not supposed to listen to them about COVID because they're not qualified or whatever. But the next day, they went back to their hospitals, and they are licensed to treat patients.
Right.
It's one or the other, people.
And they're licensed to save people's lives and make the decisions that are going to save people or not or whatever. I mean, so the fact that we, for whatever reason, can't hear their opinion, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Nope.
But it's the whole thing has been, I guess, if you don't go along with the WHO guidelines, then what you're saying is invalid.
Well, and you're killing people.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's Facebook and Google's rules. Is that pretty much
they
deal?
use those recommendations to decide what's real and what's fake. In fact, our article on the medical exam, all it was reviewing medical examiner reports.
Mm-hmm.
Purely factual article. Here's what the medical report said. Facebook put it behind a pop-up that said, this article concerns COVID-19. You can find facts about COVID-19 here or whatever. And then you had to select to continue before you could get to our article. It didn't say the article was not factual, but it just kind of implied it. Because normally you don't get a pop-up like that when you're on Facebook.
I actually saw a picture, and I don't know if this was going around for a couple weeks, but I saw they put one of those fact check shields up over a picture of Jeffrey Epstein. There was just a picture of Jeffrey Epstein and it was like, hi, I'm Jeffrey Epstein and this is a picture of me. I bet you that this will get covered. And it did. I don't understand why something like that would get covered. What are we trying to hide here, folks?
It's a massive campaign to set a narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative is that we're all going to die if we don't trust the experts. But only they're experts.
Only they're experts.
Right. And I want to talk about schools for a minute because we know. So one argument I saw in the Gainesville Sun this morning was some article not their own article, but some other one they published, is that we don't have very many deaths in the U.S. for children. It's less than a normal flu year right now. So, and we know that COVID is less deadly for children than flu is. But somehow we get through flu season every year without freaking out, right?
Crazy how that happens.
And we don't put on masks, and we don't socially distance, and we don't do all the crazy, insane things they're doing to children that I think will destroy their mental health, because children are a formative age. And if you're doing this stuff to them, then this sets patterns for their lives.
100%. I actually have myself.
Somebody has a mask fetish.
I wouldn't doubt it.
You're grooming these kids.
I have.
I kind of do myself.
I have a couple kids.
Too soon?
All my friends have kids. All my friends that do have kids, they're of school age, and with once the schools got canceled, like they had all told me, like, my kid seems a little off after about a month or so, and it's sort of the more we looked at it, the more they looked at it and talked about it, it was like a depression, and so they had to get their kid out, like get him out doing something, get him active again, and there was with my daughter. My daughter's very socially active and
extremely socially active.
My son could stay in that room from now until the end of time and just be totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
And but my daughter, if she doesn't have, somebody to interact with every 10 to 15 seconds, she goes insane.
Right.
And
when the quarantine started, I would come over here and I would walk in the door and I thought I was going to get attacked by a wolverine.
Pay attention.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Gotta get all her words out for
You
the day.
gotta have somebody to talk to.
I was like, oh my God, it's bad.
So
Well, you pull a kid out of their regular routine and the anxiety goes up just to begin with, but then you bombard them with all this terror that there's this invisible thing that's going to kill you.
Right.
And here we are 5.5 weeks or more into this thing.
months.
I just looked today, the Florida Department of Health data, so today's file, so it goes all the deaths through yesterday.
Yeah.
Less than 35 years old, a total across the entire state, a state of 21 plus million people, 103.
103 deaths.
Up to 34
Up to
years.
34 years old.
34 years
34 years old.
old. Right.
Yeah, so between, I think, if I remember, it goes from 0 to 4, then 5 to 14. So the 0 to 4 was 0, 5 to 14 was
And I'd also be
single
willing to
digits.
bet, though, because a lot of those that I've seen, when,
They're like cancer.
25-year-old man dies of COVID, what do you also, freaking diabetes or something like that? Like, there's other factors going on.
There's
there. So
almost always other factors.
that's
right?
been a common thing I've noticed.
So what this article said that I read this morning was, that's just because we haven't really been testing children and children haven't been at school. That's the reason the numbers are low.
Right.
But we don't just have data from the U.S. We have data from all over the world. And Switzerland, Sweden, whatever. You studied the school stuff more than I have. But there are countries that have been back in school since April.
Right.
including China, Wuhan, and their kids are back in school.
Yeah. And they're not doing masks, and they might be doing some social. They're not probably doing everything as normal, but there's been no outbreaks. So everybody points to Israel, where they did have, but nobody showed that the outbreaks in Israel were linked to schools. These are communities that were having, all their normal worship, celebrations, all the things they normally do. There were plenty of chances to pass it around. It wasn't at all linked to schools. There was a Georgia camp outbreak where, so many kids
I saw that. That was, everybody used that as
they established no direction of transmission on that, and most of the kids didn't have any symptoms at all. So I had a long conversation about a week ago with a friend who works in a school, was terrified to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just spent like 2 days on Facebook Messenger with her, just kind of talking her down from it. One thing we know, not only are children at almost zero risk from COVID, but there are studies showing that adults that have frequent contact with children are also protected, because we know now, Fauci just discovered this last week, but we've known, those of us who pass papers around Twitter, that there's a T-cell immunity to this that's related to previous exposure to coronaviruses. And probably 50 to 60% of the population, if not more, has this T-cell immunity. That means, it doesn't mean you won't get it at all, but you'll get a mild case.
Right.
Teachers get exposed to everything.
Right. No, but now coronaviruses have been around for...
A common cold is a coronavirus.
Okay.
So if you get if you get exposed to common colds all the time, you're probably in pretty good
because
shape. Because
I one time, I don't get sick, knock on wood. Knock on wood there. I don't generally get sick. A little thing here or there, a little cold, whatever, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really get in bed, just deathly ill for a week, kind of sick. Since I was 16, it happened to me one time. I thought I was dying. I went on vacation, went on a family vacation to Michigan, and spent 7 days in bed, throwing up, just dying. Ever since, I've never gotten to that point. I don't take a flu shot every month, none of that, and it never affects me. So I've always wondered, because I got so sick way back then, could that be? I don't know. I don't know how the hell it works.
That might actually be the same thing with me, because when I was a kid, I had both bronchitis and the scarlet fever at the same time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get so lucky? That's what I want to know.
How am I so lucky to get bronchitis and scarlet fever at the same time?
You had 2 cars stolen from the same building. You get scarlet fever, bronchitis at the same time.
Well, that was when I was a kid.
Well, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You seems Lady Luck is on your side.
Yeah, she's totally on your side.
Seems like she's got a thing for you.
She's jealous of that lady at the grocery store.
Yeah, she could be, yeah.
So, Len, you're pretty knowledgeable about economics, from what I understand. I see you have a PhD in economics. And I actually have a friend of mine.
He's Facebook stalking you right now as we speak.
I am loving this is the side of the whole COVID thing that I love, because as an economist, everyone likes to mouth off about my area of study as if they know more than me about it. So I love it, because now all the epidemiologists out there are walking around knowing what it feels like to be an economist.
I have a very good friend of mine. He's best man at my wedding. Played in a band together for a little while way back when. He is also
dude, Nick. I am not that educated.
Well, I know that. He
He's
was
not
also
talking about me.
He also got a doctorate in economics at UF back in the early 2000s. And I've wanted to bring him on just for this type of what's going on right now, because what is happening with our economy right now? Is it as bad as we think it is? I mean, did Donald Trump build us this beautiful economy? Was it given to us by Obama? Was it? These are all things I hear. What is going on? What is the truth, man? Lay it on me.
How much time do we have?
We got. I got all the time in the world.
Well, I have to give the obligatory economist answer, and that is, it depends.
It depends.
Depends
okay.
on who's paying me as to what I say.
Well, I got about $4, so what'll that get me? I mean,
do you take Vimo?
I thought it's Venmo.
It's
Venmo.
Venmo.
Is it Venmo?
It's Venmo.
See, I don't even know how to say it. So you better not get it from me.
I mean, what are we looking like, man? How bad is the world? That's what I want to know.
Well, if you look at, I'm a micro guy, not a macro guy, so I don't really get into all these things as much. But
Matt's a micro guy too. That's what his girlfriend told me that.
If you look at the historically the 10 worst periods of economic growth, basically the most contraction over a single quarter for the U.S., the top 10 in history, we have 2 of them this year.
Really?
Yes.
That does not make me feel good.
Q2 was number 1. It was you'll hear some people say, "Oh, we had 30%." Well, that's annualized. Really, the decrease in Q2 was about 10%. That's number 1 in the history that we've recorded this.
Oh boy.
Second place is like 1.5%. Just to give you a scale of how much the economy contracted in Q2. But normally, if you have a contraction, it's because something happened that everything went down, either a 9/11 type thing or just a bunch of companies laid off a bunch of workers because they freaked out about government policy or whatever it was. This one was completely intentional.
Yeah.
And I love everybody likes to blame Trump. I'm not here to defend him, but it was all the governors that did it on their own.
Right.
I mean, it's hilarious, all the people accusing Trump of being a dictator, where he's probably been the most constitutional, and it goes to all these things where he says, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But then he turns around and tells the governors to do it, and they do it.
Well, that was sort of the thing behind like the mask mandate. People, Joe Biden called for a 3-month mandatory mask mandate, which I think is foolish. But like you had said, Trump saying, I don't have the authority to do that. That's what he should be doing. But for people like here in Alachua County say, no, you have to. And now they're talking about, fining you and giving you tickets and all that stuff. Like, listen, I'll wear your mask when I go to Publix just because I don't really care to sit there and debate it that much. So I'll do it. Fine. Great. But if you track me down and try to give me a ticket while I'm minding my own business, we are going to have a problem.
Well, see, that's the sad thing. This is an economics now. Now I'm going to pretend to be a lawyer because I've been rolling around through all the Florida statutes almost for no reason, because once they declare a state of emergency, one of the provisions in there for the powers of the governor is that he can basically ignore every Florida statute he wants.
Right, absolutely.
And the real reason they keep the emergency order in place is it allows them to basically cook the books and move money and do whatever the heck they want without all the proper safeguards in place for balancing budgets and transferring manpower or money between different organizations. They can basically run the government however they want.
Yeah.
With no accountability. Is that good or bad? I'm guessing if there were rules in place, they were probably there for a reason.
Yeah.
But one of the things when they're trying to threaten you with those mask orders is that within the statutes, if you violate the emergency order, it's a type Class 2 misdemeanor, whatever.
I think it's a
I don't remember the
misdemeanor.
second-degree misdemeanor, which is, I remember looking it up before I documented it, something like, I think it's up to 30 days in jail and or up to $500 fine.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Let me just tell people, just so you know, right now it's being enforced by code enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. You do not have to stop and give your name to a code enforcement officer.
Oh, I won't stop and give my name to a law enforcement officer who just randomly approaches me.
They can actually detain you. They actually have the ability. Code enforcement officers
and then
don't.
Once a law enforcement officer detains you, if you refuse, then they can start adding on claims, resistance, even if it's without.
Oh, there'd be
force.
there'd be some additions. I can guarantee that.
Which is then the city or county commissioners just putting law enforcement in a bad place. And I've been quoting multiple times since all of this happened, paraphrase, basically, it doesn't take a evil demagogue to become a tyrant.
Right.
It takes a bureaucracy willing to implement those rules.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, it's kind of scary to think how many police officers, either ASO or GPD, would be willing to enforce that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's a few out there, quite a few probably. And that's not, I mean, hey, I like cops. I'm all for them. Like,
we are too.
I'm with you, but
until they're arresting people on the beach or beating up little old ladies for not wearing masks.
And like I said, if I'm minding my own business and you approach me, we got a problem, because 6 feet, okay. But if I'm over there minding my own business and you come my way, that's an issue. I think that's just absolutely wrong. And I hope that people don't just roll over and put up with that. But I have a feeling that they probably will. I'm not very positive about it. Sorry.
And this is why we don't wear masks.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, everybody does, right? The mulch thing at the skate park.
Oh yes.
Right? That was.
I was there for that.
Glorious day.
There.
Wasn't that a glorious day?
It was
that
wonderful.
was a glorious day because the city came in, they put mulch in the skate park, and the kids and their parents shut up and said,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not. No. Right?
I'll tell you something that was really cool because I actually was at Publix right here, and I was heading home, and I pulled into the parking lot. I put my truck in park, and I'm sitting there, and I opened up my phone, and I see back when I used to follow the Gainesville Word of Mouth dumpster fire website, that there was some posts on there about what was going on, and they had just finished dumping it. I turned around, I drove over there. I said, I gotta see this because I'm just a block away. I said, I gotta look at this. I go over there, and there's 3 kids coming across the field, and they walk over to this freshly laid mulch, and these 3 kids stand there, and they're looking around, and what do we do? And one kid drops to his knees, takes his skateboard, and just starts shoving mulch out of the way. Mm-hmm. And with that, it started. Mm-hmm. And I was so pumped to see those kids up there working their asses off to clean that up and clear it out. It filled me with pride. I was like, oh, this is great,
And what happened a few days later? Gainesville backed off.
They were over there skating. That was it.
They backed off. If enough of us push back, they will back off. Yeah. And that's why we have to, wherever we can, stop complying. And that doesn't mean being rude and being a jerk, and that doesn't mean getting in people's faces. It just means politely going about your business pretty much like you always have. Mm-hmm. And that means, some businesses, I don't know what to tell businesses. It's a big risk because they hold your business license, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of ways around it for businesses.
Well, and you've seen people having their license and permits pulled all over the country.
So,
because they're
they probably have to make their employees wear them, which I'm against, but whatever. Yeah. But they don't have to force customers to wear them. They can just not bug customers that don't wear them and say, yeah, we assume you have a medical exemption. That exemption is out there, and people should use it freely.
Yeah.
Say, I have a medical exemption. So far, we've only seen one restaurant push back on that, and we don't go back there anymore.
Right.
But Publix doesn't. You tell them you have a medical exemption, they're like, okay. Walmart, okay.
That's good. It's good to know.
And, you know, I think the masks, we know they don't work. There's not a single scientific study that existed before this that said they worked. Now, they've been doing what they call observational studies since then. For example, there's one in a hospital in Massachusetts where they put where everybody wore masks. And they decided that somehow proved it reduced transmission. They didn't have a control group that didn't have masks because that would have been unethical. But that's not how you do scientific studies.
Or they'll push studies that are really just models where if you start digging into it, you find out that the reason the masks worked in the model is because you put in an assumption that the rate of transmission is cut in half by a mask.
Right. Well, and when you look at the people that wear masks and all, I mean,
touching them all the time, pulling them down.
My favorite are the people that there was a lady I was at Publix today, and I come around the corner and then she's wearing it over her mouth loosely, but not her nose. And I mean, it clearly she's not stopping the transmission of anything. Should she decide to?
I saw a thing about just like people that wear the mask like on their chins as they're like walking around, and it's like that's like wearing a condom on your balls.
Well, that's a new one for me.
I think it was Andy Richter that said that joke. I cannot take credit for that.
Well,
there was
I'm
a
just going to
similar
share
one
it with you guys.
There was a similar one I had heard that basically said mandating masks 4 months into the spread of a virus is about the equivalent of putting the condom on at the baby shower.
Well, that's I work with pretty much like the same 6, 7, 8 guys, like day in and day out. You know, we spend 40 hours a week together, and when all this started, you know, all the indecision and all that, or you know, all the just misinformation all over the place, not knowing which way is up. One of the things that I'd always say is like, listen, guys, the way that this looks, the way that it's being presented by the media and all that stuff, if one of us has got it or has had it for the past couple weeks, the rest of us are already there. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do.
That's the same thing with me.
Us.
I work with just 2 other people, but I'm with them all the time.
Really?
And I've been with them ever since all this stuff started. Right. So I mean, if we're gonna get it, we're gonna fucking get it.
Yeah. But it's been the same folks that, you know, day in and day out, we're all together. So it's like, look, it's gonna play out how it's gonna play out, man. But I'm certainly not gonna let it rule, you know, day to day anymore. It's just it's been a very rough, like, mental wellness journey, you know, throughout all of this. And I've been pretty open on this podcast about it. For me, I quit smoking cigarettes in September 14th of last year. So I'm coming up on a year, which is pretty dope. But during that time, there have been some really interesting things that have popped up for me that I was not expecting, from depression and anxiety and stuff like that have gone along with, you know, these nicotine withdrawals, which I think now I'm starting to feel good about saying, like, I think I'm finally starting to come back around to being normal after almost a year. But I mean, my parents smoked. Everybody in my family smoked. You know, I started smoking when I was like 13. I mean, nicotine and cigarettes and the chemicals that go along with it have always been a part of me. So I think it's taken an extra long time to sort of really cleanse all that stuff out. But here we are. I think I'm starting to get on the other side of that. But all of this having happened, with all of that going on in my head, it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie. It was absolutely terrifying on some days. Not knowing, you know, hell, if we're going to be here, you know, next month or whatever. And, yeah, it messed with me a lot. So that's been definitely a rough aspect of all of this.
Yeah,
thanks for bringing that up. Like right as I'm about to light a cigarette. no,
It does not affect me. It does not affect me.
But
it depends on that secondhand smoke.
But what we don't know right now, you can say we don't know a lot about COVID, but actually we know a lot about COVID, and it actually hasn't changed from what we knew in March.
Right.
We knew age stratification. We knew from the, what was it called, the Diamond Princess. We knew from that study.
From the Diamond Princess?
So there's a cruise ship very early on. Everybody all together, isolated, right?
Right.
17 or 20% of them got it.
Right.
X percent died or whatever, but there was a primarily older population. But everybody was exposed. Only 20% got it.
Really?
That was our first clue that there's but no, we were told this is novel. Nobody has any immunity to it. False. Probably 80% have some immunity to it. But anyway, back to
that's wild.
How we're going to get out of this. Because if we just keep going along with all the measures, note that the measures never relax.
Yeah.
Right? They just keep clamping down
more.
Course. Right? It's not good enough that all of our curves are coming down. The students are coming back. We have to shut everything. They didn't talk about it this week, but they have in the past few weeks talked about preemptively closing all restaurants for like 4 weeks when the students come back, just because
Sweden doesn't exist.
Because Sweden doesn't exist.
Jesus.
But anyway, point is, New York and New Jersey are done with COVID. Okay, they had the big spike up. It was a perfect epidemiological curve.
Not the flatten the curve. They had the original.
They had the big curve. Not when you had the flatten the curve picture with the really big spike. Okay, New York and New Jersey had the big one.
Right.
They are now at less than 10 deaths a day. For New York has 20 million, 19 million.
About 19 million.
Right. We have Florida's probably 100, and I'm guessing we won't know for a while, but I'm guessing 125 a day. New York's at 10. Okay, they have no COVID. Yeah. They had, I don't know, a couple hundred positive tests in the entire state yesterday.
They're still locked down.
But they are still locked down because their governors believe that the reason that they don't have deaths and cases anymore is because they're all being good. And they're all following the rules, and that we control this somehow. And so as long as our government believes that the only way to keep this down is by having more and more and more rules, we will never get rid of them until the people stand up and push back.
If you look at Sweden, which they want you to think doesn't exist, and actually today I was looking it up and it was ridiculous because talk about the media propaganda, all these stories popping up. Sweden, through the first 6 months of the year, had the most deaths in 150 years since some famine that they had. And every headline, or just about everyone in the headline, had to throw in Sweden, which refused to shut down. Like, that's the reason. I'm pretty sure that every country is probably towards the top on deaths. At least over for the U.S., definitely since 2004. That's the CDC data, or 2014, where they give you like the last 5-6 years. But what they don't mention in those stories is if you look at their curve, it's kind of the same as New York's. It started up high and then it came down, and they have been in single digits for over a month of deaths. This is a country with 10 million people.
Do you know?
Well, look at New Zealand. New Zealand is at 0.
They were locked down. They were. They spiked.
Did they get another one?
They're spiking up. They have cases right now. More every day. They're locking everybody down again. They're like
locking people up.
They're going insane. They're arresting people.
Well, so let's think about that for a second. All right. So when they were locked down, they had 0, and then when they started opening back up, then we start getting more cases.
I'm not even sure they started opening back up. But the point is, you can't outrun it.
Right.
You can't push it away forever. You have to let it run through the population. The faster you let it run through the young population, the fewer deaths you'll get. Right. Sweden admitted the one mistake that Tegnell, their public health guy, said that they made is they didn't protect the nursing homes well enough. But everybody says they have, the highest, that their deaths per million is very high. It's not. U.S. is catching up very fast. We're right below them now, and we're not done. They're done.
Do you know what, like the deaths that we've had as a country this year? Do you know what that is in relation to previous years without coronavirus?
We were. So I've been tracking the CDC provisional deaths by week where they report it, and it's always a couple weeks back. So when I looked at it, and it had been updated, I think through August 8th, it had said we were something like 6% above last year.
Right, that's it.
For additional.
Wow.
And it was like, but then you looked at it, and last year was unchanged from the year before. So it averages about 3% per year, which makes sense because that's pretty close, population growth, whatever, and change demographics are getting older. And
well, but then there was a lot of deaths that didn't happen that
in
could have
2019.
Well, in 2020, because we're locked down, there was a lot of things that people weren't doing that could have caused death. Driving, a big one, car accidents, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people were locked up, so locked
was definitely
down.
a decline
so
there.
They weren't able to be out on the streets. They weren't able to be out and like moving around, doing stuff, and being active and causing problems and dying. So maybe like that percentage is a little bit skewed.
Well, in the past 2 years, were very mild flu seasons. So one theory is that what we're doing right this year is really just catching up on the people that would have died from flu in the past 2 years. The vulnerable, the elderly, the frail, and we're just kind of catching up. So that's what he's.
And I don't want anybody to think like one thing that happens a lot is people like, oh, they're talking about the frail and the elderly, the people that are dying like they don't count, they don't matter. They do matter.
They do matter.
But at the same time, like, we're just talking facts here. We're not trying to
but not only
hurt
that,
your feelings and all that stuff. We're just talking about facts as they are.
We are, but not only that. There's evidence that the way we have dealt with this is actually leading to additional elderly deaths.
Right. I get that.
So I don't buy any of the these policies are saving lives. No, they are costing lives. That will become increasingly clear over the next year or two.
Yeah.
As we realize how many people are dying of cancer and whatever that would have been diagnosed and treated during this time. Suicides. And they're not all going to happen now. Suicides from the mental, the people having mental troubles now, which is almost everybody is having some issues.
Yeah.
Those will go on for years.
There was the CDC survey that came out last week that was showing
25% of people between 18 and 24 had suicidal thoughts in June. Which is
damn.
It was like 3 times higher than normal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
And it's even higher. Something like 2/3 had some kind of anxiety issue. I don't remember if that was for under 18 to 24, if that was for everybody that was surveyed.
Everybody, but what we are doing is absolutely immoral.
I'm going to tell you a funny thing. My wife has tried to get me to get rid of cable television for years. Not because she doesn't want to watch what's on it or the message or anything, because she's pretty cheap and she wants to save, if there's a nickel to be saved, she's going to find it. So we should do satellite. Satellite's crap. We're not doing that. No. I'm at a point right now, more than ever, where if she came to me and was like, I think we can just get rid of the cable TV. This right now would probably be the only time that I'd ever be like, yeah, okay, let's get rid of it. I don't watch it. It's pointless. I don't like watching it. I don't turn it on. It's just negative. I'm burning through my list on Netflix, though.
We are too.
Dude, I just finished up watching season 2 of The Umbrella Academy.
Is that good?
Dude, it's so good.
Have you've enjoyed that? Have you guys know?
It's kind of like
I didn't watch it.
It's kind of a
You watched
superhero kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Would
It's based on a comic book,
Yeah,
which I hadn't really read, and I was kind of watching it, and I was like,
Dude, you get through about halfway through season 2, and you're gonna be like, "Holy!"
That's a lot of investment to get really into it.
Well,
though.
no, I mean the first season teaches you what's up, and then the second season gets holy shit, what's up?
it's kind of a dark comedy.
Okay,
but it some of it can be entertaining.
I like dark comedies.
Yeah.
There was one with Christina Applegate, Dead to Me or something like that,
I don't know.
where she kills her husband. Great show. If you ever get a chance to see it, though.
I thought
Fantastic
the
show.
Boys, I think, is better.
The Boys
Boys
was amazing.
I've heard a lot of good about that.
New
Is
season comes out next month.
Dude,
Is
what
that
was it?
all it's cracked up to be?
Dude, what was that guy's name? The guy that was made out of diamonds when they killed him?
The Invisible Man, I think.
Made out of diamonds.
Do you remember that guy, that scene where they killed him? Oh my God! I will never forget that.
The very opening scene where the guy, the equivalent of the Flash, takes out the girlfriend. That's when you know this is not your regular superhero show.
And
Speaking
he was all
of the
like
Flash,
juiced up. Oh man!
Speaking of the Flash, not to interrupt you nerding out there, but I hear Michael Keaton's Batman's coming back in the Flash. Have you heard about that?
That is supposed to be a thing.
What's up with that?
But also, Ben Affleck is supposed to be coming back as Batman as well.
They're doing some like into the Batverse, similar to the Spider-Man thing, where you have all these different DC universes and all the Batman.
But do we have to have Ben Affleck?
The Flash is able to transfer into different universes with the speed
I just
force.
thought he was able to run really fast.
Oh no, he can do a lot of things.
What?
Yeah.
It's comics books, man.
Oh my God.
Do anything.
Are you big into comics, comic movies, or anything like that?
I watch movies. I don't read comic books. Though.
You a big movie fan? What's your favorite all time? Best one ever?
The Incredibles.
The Incredibles? Really? That's it?
It has everything. You got the James Bond. You got the villain with his private island. You got superheroes. You got political commentary and social
You've
commentary.
got a perfect wife.
Out of everything that is, The Incredibles. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awesome.
I kind of figured like you'd go for something old school, like Goonies or something like that.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh my God!
You just hurt his feelings.
There's a major movie you haven't seen.
We might have to watch that after the show, for God's sakes. Like, stay here. I'm making popcorn.
I think as a kid I only watched rated R movies, so I didn't see it.
Okay,
dude.
So let's talk Porky's then.
Nick is seriously going to handcuff you and make you watch the Goonies.
I did see that.
Have you ever seen Police Academy?
Yes.
Have you, like all of them?
All of them.
Okay, so.
I would do the sound effects on this, but I don't want to break your mind.
A couple months ago, I watched. They came on Netflix.
Animal.
What? What?
Wasn't his name Animal? Didn't they call him Animal?
Here. Bring your glass over here, Matt. You need some more of this.
Oh, you just needed me to shut up.
I just warn you, this took a turn where Jennifer can't participate anymore. She doesn't do movie quotes.
You guys carry on, though. It's great.
Well,
apparently I'm not allowed to do a movie quotes anymore either.
No, I just didn't understand it, so I figured, I'd give you some more of that, and then maybe, in a few minutes we'd check back on that quote and understand it a little bit more, because I don't understand anything about an animal noise dude, because Michael Winslow, to my understanding, did not make noises like...
No, I'm not talking about Michael Winslow.
I'm talking about Bobcat Goldthwait?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a different dude. He was like in one of them, or two of them.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, but I think you're.
But it might actually help if I have a few more of these drinks.
You'll probably sound more like it.
Yeah,
that was a Bobcat Goldthwait kind of sound, though.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He did that weird thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Oh, okay.
But after a few more of these drinks, I'll probably sound even more like him while I'm just talking like a normal person.
Growing up, I watched all those movies, all the Police Academy movies. They just recently came out on Netflix or something like that. I started watching it. I started watching the first one. Laughed my ass off. It was hilarious. Started watching part 2. It was terrible. I was like, what's happened? Part 1 was rated R. Part 2 and all thereafter were like PG-13. That's why. They should have just continued with
the really short boob scenes.
The better,
The more raunch, the better.
I mean, it was the 80s, for God's sakes. It was the 80s. Come on. You want to try to make that noise again? I was waiting for you to do it.
I haven't taken another drink yet.
Well, you need to see the Goonies, man.
We successfully got it off the COVID talk, so I was happy.
Yeah. You need to make that happen, Jen.
Now let's talk about something a little bit more
But I mean, back
upbeat.
to cable, though. This is not upbeat. But I mean, the whole reason that I have a TV service at all is for sports.
Yeah. What sports? What's
I might
your
get
go-to?
to cancel our cable now.
Football.
She watches everything.
And I'm a major college football fan, but I will watch NFL. I mean, I watch during the fall. I watch Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday at least.
I think I have a picture of her watching a Gator baseball game on one TV the women's softball game on an iPad, and then she had the gymnastics meet on another TV.
Yeah, I had
So
three,
you're like
I had three
all
screens
of 'em.
going. Yeah,
She's pretty serious.
I really do like sports, and
All
this
right.
has been super depressing that all the sports went away.
Hasn't it been though?
And what's killed me is that the sports writers seem to be cheering that on. I don't know if it's just because they work for the media and the media is so invested in the panic, but I don't understand why sports writers are literally
writing themselves
writing columns on how we can't safely have college football.
Matt was really upset that Brady was not gonna. He was not gonna be able to watch Brady play for the Bucks.
I am so excited to watch him play behind
Get
the Bucks
flattened.
offensive line. Just.
I want to see him sitting on the sidelines reading the newspaper.
At any given chance, I like to allude to the fact that Matt loves Tom Brady, but truth be told, he does not. He's a big time Green Bay guy. So, Gators are you go to though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They were.
They were. That's that. Like everything else, so much has changed. Like,
Yeah.
I was a major Gators fan, Gator football fan, but what I'm seeing is that all the sports, all the athletes are moving to social justice messages, and I'm not going to watch it.
Do you think that the SEC is going to play?
I do.
You think? Yeah.
I do. I think there's enough of the old school coaches that they're just gonna push on through. And what I truly don't understand, again, because nobody can tell the truth about this.
Right.
The best strategy for any college football team right now, you've got a month before you go into full-on training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Infect all your kids.
Well, I heard.
Get done with it. What?
Blank that out for the lawyers.
I actually, I was on the fence. I wasn't sure. I was like, well, I mean, they're kids, and because I think one of the things that we do frequently when we see these, and by when I'm talking about college sports, I'm primarily football and basketball. It's very easy to look at these guys that are out there playing and not think of them as kids, but they're kids, 18, 19 years old. They're children still. We all, I think we can all get behind that. So when I started thinking about it, I thought, oh, hell, I know how this is going to go. They're going to say, all right, let's start playing sports. The first kid that gets infected, the parents are going to sue. They're going to own half the school by January, and that's how it's going to go. But I was watching the news, and I saw Herschel Walker.
He's been a real voice.
He has been a huge voice about it.
Yes.
Herschel Walker himself, Georgia Bulldogs, but hey. It is what it is.
Walker.
It's Herschel Walker. He's been around the block a few times. And what he said moved me off of the mark that I had, and it pushed me right into, we need to have sports. Because what he said was, you have the best doctors in the country at some of these universities. These guys, they are going to do everything in their power to keep these kids healthy, to keep them out there working and furthering the program. I mean, because let's face it,
And
these are multi-million-dollar programs.
their education.
Trevor Lawrence had something similar to that last week, where he was
Yeah.
saying, "What are you talking about? You send these kids home. Most of them don't even have stable houses. Here, they're taken care of. They're watched. They're disciplined
nutrition.
because they watch them. They have the nutrition. They got the doctors.
They're
safer here.
Have you seen their the places where they live?
Yeah.
It's
Like
ridiculous.
their dorms, and everybody listening can't see the
Air
huge
quotes.
quotes that I just did, but they're not dorms. Those are full-fledged condos.
Suites.
Like they have suites. They are well taken care of, and they have first-hand amenities at every they can
top
reach out to the
notch,
right and just have something amazing, and then reach out to the left and they have something amazing. Where I'm sitting at home and I reach out to my left and
There's
I'm
just
just
a cardboard cutout of Aaron Rodgers.
yeah, probably.
But think
True
about
story.
this. Think
Either
about
that
this.
or my dog sitting there scratching her head or something like that. It's just something dumb. But these kids, when they go off to school for college, they have some sweet stuff. They're well taken care of.
So think about this. You got 100 guys on a football team, right? You infect you expose all of them. Now, first of all, a bunch of them have already had it.
Right.
Right. I mean, obviously,
And
even if
kids.
they whether they know it or not, they've already had it because they hang out. They hang out with their buds and go to parties and stuff like that. So, but let's say none of them have been infected. Only 20% of them are going to get infected.
Yeah.
Because we know this from Diamond Princess, right? So only 20 of them are even going to get infected.
Yeah.
Out of those 20, 5 will be symptomatic. So the other 15 won't even know they had it.
Yeah.
Like, they'll get a positive test, but they will have no symptoms. So now you have 5 guys out of 100 that have symptoms. Chances are those are extremely mild, and in a week they're fine.
Right.
You might have 1 guy out of 10 football teams, 1 out of 10.
And when you consider what not having college football means
To those kids.
To
it's
those
their
kids,
education, it's their future.
to those
pro.
economies, to those, I mean, the Midtown Gainesville area lives and dies by football season. How many other little towns, football towns, have the same thing that we do here in Gainesville, where they have that centralized area that just thrives on those game days? You know, I would imagine that most of them do.
And if these guys were really at risk, it would be a different equation.
Yeah.
But let's think about what happens on a typical Saturday and Sunday in the fall. What is the headline every single weekend? So-and-so tore their ACL.
Yeah.
So-and-so tore their Achilles. So-and-so injured their back. So-and-so got a concussion, right? Every single weekend. It's not a risk-free game.
Yeah.
Well, you have all
Why are we insisting that it has to be risk-free now?
Like basketball season, they play through flu season, and
Yeah.
every year there's stories of players that they all didn't practice this week because of the flu, and then they're out on the court the next week.
Do you
playing.
remember the 2009 Tebow Flu Game?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Or there's a
wow,
Jordan
I forgot
one,
all
too.
about
He
that.
played right, and that was probably, given that it was 2009, that was probably H1N1,
That's right. I
which
forgot
killed
about that.
far more young people than COVID ever did.
We were so worried that Tebow wasn't going to take the field and all that. Oh.
And then he did, and he was a hero
Yes.
for
Yes.
exposing everybody to
Yep.
flu. What has happened to us in 11 years that we can now not even think about that risk?
It's been a rough few years since Tebow left. Everything went downhill after that. I mean, I don't know. It's been a tragedy in a lot of
But
ways.
seriously, the flu is far more dangerous to young people than COVID.
Right.
We know this. We have data. And flu, like you said, runs
but
through
we
basketball
don't know
teams
the
every year.
long-term repercussions, so we need to
Don't
lock
even
these
start.
kids in a box for 20 years
Don't
before we
even
let
start.
them out.
That's what the Big Ten went with, right? The long-term repercussions.
Well, except for the commissioner for the Big Ten. His son will be playing football at Mississippi State, I think.
Something
Really?
like that, yeah.
Really? That's a thing? That's kind of funny.
Well, if the SEC plays.
I think at this point, I think they're going to probably go ahead with it, you know.
I do think, going back to the liability, I do think that, I mean, right to Chuck Clemens, right to Keith Perry, right to the most important thing the legislature could do right now is pass liability laws. That's what's keeping businesses
Terrified.
You know, one thing that's been that one group that's taken a really big hit in all this has been the local music groups.
Oh yeah.
Pat over at the High Dive, who owns the High Dive, he's really been pushing the SaveOurStages.com and stuff like that, and writing to everybody, because those guys are struggling, and God, we don't even know. We have no clue when they're going to be back up and running. And
No, and you know this, for musicians, playing together is kind of part of our sanity.
it was therapeutic.
And so
therapeutic.
I was playing in a praise band, and of course we shut down in March.
Yeah.
And we had a couple just to get together and play in June, and it was just the most wonderful thing to just be together playing music.
Yeah, I agree. It really does. It'll help get you through, you know. And what do you play?
She didn't describe the full idiocy of it, though, because they would get together and hang out and play together, just like we're doing now, sitting here, and then it'd be like, oh, well, we need to record it for the service, and then they would suddenly get 6 feet apart and put masks on.
We weren't at the mask stage yet, but we did.
Right.
It's like, oh no, we can't be close to each other when the cameras are on. But we were all.
Yeah. See, I just can't get along with stuff like that, you know. I mean, like I said, guys that I see every day, it's like, I'm not going to wear a mask, you know. You're sniffing today. You're sniffles and coughing. Well, 2 weeks ago, that's when I should have been worried. Now it is what it is. It's just.
So I'm a pianist. So
yeah. How long have you been playing?
Since I was 5.
Since you were 5. Oh my God.
She said pianist.
I knew somebody would pick up on that.
Leave it to me.
I play the keys. How you like that better?
My good friend who was talking about earlier, who's also got the doctorate in economics, also has been playing piano his whole life, and
so he's also a pianist.
He is also a pianist.
The micro guy too.
Do you find it? Can you just like play anything?
I cannot.
No.
She is like a player piano. You
So,
put anything in front of her,
yes.
she can play it.
Yeah.
I can sight read almost anything.
Really?
You put music in front of me, I'm golden. I cannot play by ear for anything, which makes me not so great in a band. So I probably won't be doing that anymore. But no, but I'm a classical pianist. So.
Nice. That's amazing. I love the piano. I'm terrible at it. I'm also terrible at pretty much any instrument, but
I play electric guitar terribly. So.
Well, we have that in common.
I play worse.
I bet I could prove you guys all wrong because I think you're way better than I am.
So what sort of things are we going to be seeing from you guys in the Alalchua Chronicle in the future? Like what's the goal here?
My goal I've been very frustrated in it so far because my goal is for people to understand
right
the corruption of our city and county commissions and the just utter misguidedness of what they're trying to do to our city and county and vote different people in. And in fact, it's so far going exactly the wrong direction.
But it's just to demonstrate the way their minds work, that they don't even think very far into the future. It was just this week, were they not just praising how they were going to do something to implement it to make it like Portland?
They really
the
want to
city
be
that
Portland.
is literally burning.
They want to be Portland.
And
I'm not sure Portland is a good measure for anything at this point.
But they were talking about some property rules or something to match Portland.
Yes.
They
were modeling one of their ordinances after a Portland ordinance. They really want to be Portland.
This is the city or the county?
City is worse. County, though, after this last round
they get kind of pushed around, though. They got pushed around with that whole mask mandate pretty good. That sort of really...
The county, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of pissed some people off where they said,
changed it,
okay,
flip-flopped it in the same
we're
day.
Good, no masks. And then like an hour later, they're like, oh, wait, Gainesville said we need masks. And I know that was really something that helped push the Springs County debate into the spotlight.
But then when you look at how the primaries went for county commission, the most leftist, most radical candidate won every time.
Across the board. I mean, you had Byerly, who was...
I have not once agreed with Byerly in the 20 years he's been on the county, right? But he is still the most sensible county commissioner.
Which is why he lost by 20 points.
And he lost 60-40 to Mary Alford, who is radical.
That dude lost?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's out. Or he will be. He will be whenever after November. But
man, and we got a new sheriff. That kind of surprised me.
Well, I wasn't surprised.
I saw that coming.
The machine got behind Clovis Watson.
Yeah.
You don't lose when the machine's behind you.
That's true.
I mean, look at Raina.
Sadie's been in there forever.
She has. Look at Raina Sacco, city commissioner. There were 4 people in that race, I think. One of them, maybe 5, I forget. One of them was a well-known former city commissioner, I think. Sherwin Henry. People knew his name. He's black. Very, long time involvement in the community, well known. And then there's Raina Sacco, who is young, Hispanic, fairly new on the scene, has no political experience for whatever reason,
or actual work experience,
she's a lawyer, but whatever. But anyway, the Democrat machine got behind Sacco in a race with 4 people. She got 51% of the vote. It didn't even go to a runoff. Out of nowhere. So that when the machine decides who's going to win, they win. I don't know how to fight back against that.
It's only like 10,000 people that maybe voted or something like that. I mean,
no, there were more. So the race she won was the same day as the presidential preference primaries.
Right.
So there was fairly good turnout for that race.
Man. So I'm going to ask you a question. I ask a lot of people this. Any of us that start talking politics here, I tend to ask this question too. What do you think of Joe Biden? What's your thoughts on Joe?
I think Joe Biden is a non-entity.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to happen after he's elected depends on the people behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be the organizers that are running his campaign or whatever. Biden is a non-entity. He's not even here anymore.
Yep.
So he's a puppet.
That's the way I see it.
What about you?
I see it.
You have anything different to say on that?
I was just going to say, if the Democrats wanted Kamala Harris to be the president, they should have probably voted for her in the primary.
There's that. So why do you pick someone who gives you a state you don't need, you're going to win anyway, who dropped out of the race before even the first primary? She doesn't have, nobody liked her. Why do you pick her?
And I think that the thing that I've struggled with understanding is, I mean, clearly she didn't do very well in primaries, so she didn't make it. But everybody kind of knows, like, hey, we're going to be voting for Joe Biden is basically voting for their vice president, potentially.
Right.
You know, as to because a lot of people think that they're just going to boot the guy off or something like that. Like, you think he's even going to make it to Election Day?
Don't know. He's hung on this long, but I don't think it matters. I don't think has any input into anything. I think that he will have staff that will do whatever the Democrat Party wants them to do. I suspect they're the most radical of the radical.
Yeah. That's a crazy thought, though. Like, to think that the president, if he was the president, he wouldn't even be running the show.
No.
That's crazy to me. That boggles my mind.
All people are doing is voting against Trump, and
yeah,
that's fine. I just really wonder where America's going.
Same.
Yeah, I think the survey they did last week said something about 65% of the people who had said they had supported Biden, it was because they were voting against Trump.
But here's the thing that I also don't understand. There's not a lot that I don't understand, but this also. When I look around, you look at the pulse of what's going on in the country, and whether it's on, Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or what, in the news, wherever. I see Trump everywhere. I see voters for Trump everywhere. I see people
there's enthusiasm
painting their entire properties blue with gigantic.
Have you seen any Biden signs?
No, I haven't.
Bumper stickers?
I saw one sticker with Biden's name on it, and it was an Obama Biden sticker, and it was faded. It was like from the first go round, So no, I don't see any, and I see all these people that are saying, we need to get Trump out of office. It
doesn't matter who's on that ticket. It's not Trump.
Well, the thing is that they say we need to get Trump out of office, not we need to get Biden into office. There is no excitement for Joe Biden. There's only excitement for the idea of getting Trump out of office. Okay. And I think that's pretty telling, but you see there's like 1,000 boats out in the bay or something that are trying to break a record of boats for Trump. It's like a boat parade for the guy on his birthday, and we're not doing that for Joe Biden.
I saw a golf cart parade for Biden today in the Villages.
A golf cart parade? I bet you that was thrilling.
It was.
Were they wearing masks and socially distancing?
I'm sure they were.
I hear things get wild in the Villages, though.
I've heard that.
I bet you if they're wearing masks, they're for show, because they're exchanging a lot more than just coronavirus down there, from what I understand.
But I mean, if you're a pro-Biden voter, you gotta wear your mask, because that is now the Democrat Party platform. Wear a mask. That's their platform
for 3 months, apparently.
There's not going to be any end to it. But I really want. I mean, so if Trump wins, the left goes insane. Yes. If Biden wins, the left implements all of its policy preferences.
Thereby going insane.
But more formally, right? I mean, one of it's violence going insane, and the other one is formally deconstructing everything that our system is built on. They will just take it out. So as much as they can. And we've seen that the judges don't stand up to it. So I don't see anymore that there's any wall against anything they want to do.
Right.
So what happens to those of us who don't want to live in a country that's built on social justice?
I don't know. But I can tell you, there was a gentleman who was it was like Shasta, California or something like that. Did you see that video of that guy? Who basically went into the city commission and warned them that, listen, this shit's only going to remain peaceful for so long.
There's a lot of people thinking that. He's one of the first to
say
it out loud.
And what happens when that majority has finally had enough?
Which is why I'd rather it start now with just peacefully stop complying.
Yeah.
So that we don't get to where people are shooting.
Yeah. You think it could possibly get to that point?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a crazy thought to me.
Plausible deniability.
I mean, I hope not, but at the same time, I
don't want to get any identities, but I've talked to a number of people.
Yeah.
Just random conversations that I wouldn't even think were gun people, and they're buying body armor.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know gun sales are through the roof.
Yeah.
People are preparing.
Yeah. Well, I've had people that I know and trust that are very well trained from a military standpoint that have called me and said, "Hey, I'm your friend, and I'm telling you, the writing is on the wall. Be prepared."
Exactly.
And holy what?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
So the only way to I don't know how we avoid that, honestly, at this point, because the left does not want to live in a country with us. It's increasingly obvious.
I think that the only thing that will keep like a real deal outbreak of a civil war at bay, I do truly believe this, that I just don't think the other side would be that prepared, as well prepared as the other side, and
well, duh, because they're not going to have any guns.
Exactly.
Right.
They don't have any.
I mean, Jim Morrison 5-1 said they've got the guns, but we've got the numbers. But
when you got the guns,
That's the numbers.
A tank can take out a lot of people.
I tried to propose a simple solution of just a draft. I was even going to offer letting them go first. You just pick which state you want, and then we'll pick a state. The one thing is that for 5 years, you cannot move between these states.
Right.
And once you do, you can't vote there.
I like it.
So we'll just split 25 states one way, 25 states the other way.
I truly think we're moving in that direction. I don't want it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm tired of living under these dictators who are one-person dictators making increasingly rules after rules after rules for us, and then accusing Trump of being the fascist.
Right.
When he's the one, they're begging him to do a national mask mandate. He's refusing, but he is the fascist.
Yeah.
What?
I don't get it. I don't get it either.
I don't understand. But I don't want to live under these people. I don't want to live under the Alachua County Commission and the Gainesville City Commission. I want Springs County. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're talking very seriously about moving.
Yeah.
We don't want to live like this, and we don't want to live under blue rule.
Yeah.
And
it does seem to be quite suffocating.
We're not
I'll
alone.
tell you that. No, I don't think so at all. At all. I mean, I've noticed. I mean, I have a few friends that I grew up with that I know are left-leaning fellas, and they're gonna go out and vote for Biden, and it's okay, do your thing. But everybody I know that is rational and common sense thinking folks, they're either voting gold for Jorgensen or they're going for Trump, and I'm struggling to find out how people can actually, in good faith, vote for Joe Biden. That to me is,
they're
I
not
don't
voting
get
for
it.
Joe Biden. They're voting against Trump.
Right.
I just caught this little microaggression here. I realized he sat me on the left, and he gave me a blue microphone.
No, I picked my seat first.
Oh, that's true.
So I did that to you.
We actually did that on purpose.
Shit, that's why I got a red bike.
We knew that was going to happen.
Is that what it is? I get it now.
I must have the gold.
I don't know what the orange means. You're just the odd man out.
So
I'm just kind of like almost red.
you got the gator colors. I had a really interesting experience this week.
The
What's
guy
that?
that wanted to throw us in the prison camps.
Yes. So
Wait a minute. What?
I went to Princeton University, so I'm on their alumni email list, right? And there's one called Career Networking, and people use it for, hey, I'm looking for a job in this industry, or can you connect me to somebody at this company, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So somebody earlier this week posted, my wife has some time in her hand. She'd like to work for the Trump campaign. Does anybody have any contacts?
Sure.
Now, just to give some context to this, somebody wrote the exact same thing except Biden in July, and a bunch of people responded, hey, great, hey, connect with this person. This person that wanted to work for the Trump campaign got creamed. The thread is still going on. It's 62 messages, last I checked. People saying, do not post here about working for the Trump campaign because that's evil and you should be shamed. And don't worry, you'll all be in prison camps in January. I mean, it's really and people had said, well, what about free speech? Like all that was a request to make a contact. They weren't advocating for Trump.
Right.
They weren't, they didn't say anything about Trump at all. They just asked for a contact. And then people are saying, well, no, we have a responsibility to stand up when we see evil and when we see our democracy being killed. And it's important. When this is how, what's going on in America right now is how Germany fell for Hitler.
Right.
Right. And we have a responsibility to stop it. And we have a responsibility to stop anybody that could possibly advocate for Trump.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, because these are people this isn't Twitter. These are people posting under their real names, their real email
They're
addresses.
unashamed. They're happy to put it out there.
Smug that they are completely right and that all of their friends will agree with them.
Basically makes a Princeton degree worthless.
It does.
I just ask that when people start spouting off, I just ask for specifics. Like, let's just talk in facts and specifics. And if you can't do that, if you can do nothing but sling insults and name call, I'm just not interested. You don't have any value for me as a human being, and I want nothing to do with you. You're just a waste of my time.
Yeah, I don't know of one specific thing they could point to. They would just say he models a racist. They brought up Charlottesville, of course, which is the stupidest thing ever. But he modeled his attitude is so racist and all of this that he inspires all of his followers to be racist, and it's making America horrible. And every single thing they can point to is something that was basically made up by the news media. Yeah, they took something he said, they take it out of context.
There was a lot of context and a lot of things that have been taken out of context, and that's what is continuously used against Trump is the out of context stuff, more so than anything. The guy's got enough things that he said.
Yes.
That I don't even need to say them. Everybody knows the things that the guy has said that have offended or been wrong or just pissed people off. Or there's plenty of that. We don't need to make extras up. The Central Park 5 thing, that's a big thing. I can't just look at the timeline, folks. Read the history of how it all went down. Why the guy put that shit out there. It drives me nuts.
It drives me nuts too.
It drives me nuts.
And I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and go, Trump's a wonderful person.
No.
He is our only. He is what stands between us and what the left wants for this country.
And that's why, like I'm gonna vote for Trump. I'm not afraid to say that. I don't give a shit if anybody's got a problem with that. You know where to find me. But the truth of it is, I'm voting for Trump.
You can find him on Spotify. You can find him on iTunes.
Make sure you hit subscribe.
Leave a 5-star review, please.
Porchmail@porchvillepod.com. You know where to send the email. But I'm gonna vote for him. Because I'm not going to vote for Biden, and you know what? There's people that I love that are advocating their asses off for Joe Jorgensen, and I get it. I understand a third party wanting that other option. I'd love 13 freaking parties. The more the merrier. Let's bring them all in there. But we all know that it's going to come down
Trump and Biden.
to Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
One came west.
And one of them is going to be president in November.
Right. There's
Who's
only
it-
two
who's it
movies
gonna
here.
be?
Which one do you want?
Who's it going to be?
Yep.
And I'm sorry. When
It's
I'm
gonna be
looking at
Kanye.
it, I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for a guy who doesn't know where he left his freaking keys.
Can't remember his name or his wife's name.
Forget about it.
Can't remember how many grandkids he has.
But does Trump know how to drive a car?
Who cares?
Who cares?
He's born and raised in New York.
Well, I know. Well, but you just brought up his keys.
I guarantee you, he knows where his house keys are.
Biden doesn't drive either.
No, he
so-
doesn't. He doesn't even know where his house is. He has somebody drive him there.
It's the White House. It's his
Does
house.
he know how to get there?
I mean, everybody's got a phone, man.
Come on, he take 4 right turns. Is he gonna know where he's going?
He's not even allowed to go anywhere by himself, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true. So what can we? I know we asked this a little bit. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but we're about. I think we got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, give or take. Where is this going? Alachua Chronicle. What's the goal? What's the hope for this long term? Where do you see Alachua Chronicle in 5 years?
I wish I knew. We have to get advertisers if we're going to keep going.
And what do you?
And if we can get some income going, then we could actually hire another reporter and we could cover the school board, which is desperately needs covering. But I'm only one person.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to depend on the support we get in the community.
So the advertisers, where can they reach out to you guys at?
So if you go to AlalchuaChronicle.com, there's a menu, and I think it says sponsorship, right?
Advertising.
It says advertising. Okay, it says advertising. And if you go there, all of the information you need is there. Like
Advertising,
prices,
yep.
even the prices are there. You don't
It
have
sure
to,
is. I'm looking at it right now.
Yep, it's all there, and you can reach out, talk to Len. He'll set you up. He'll help you get your graphic to the right aspect ratio. Or whatever.
I'm actually starting to think about the guerrilla marketing campaign.
This
What's
is
the
great.
guerrilla
This is
marketing?
great.
I'm just going to start throwing up ads for companies and then calling them and say, if you want me to take this ad down so that you're not affiliated with our website, you're going to have to give me money. And then I was thinking
So
of
then they
charging
can
more.
nominate
If
somebody
you want to
else.
nominate your competitor for me to put them on here instead, that'll cost you extra.
So is there
That's brutal.
like currently? I mean, is this like the full-time job for both of you
Yeah.
guys? Yeah. So you're all
And then
in.
some. I mean, I work all day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
It's
I had to
nonstop.
get her a hobby.
It's nonstop.
I ride my bike. I mow the lawn.
Same.
What people tell us is that they don't want to advertise on our site because we are critical of the city commission and county commission, and those governments are known to be vindictive.
Well, and any time that you go against what's the status quo in Gainesville, obviously people are going to just lump you in and say they're a right wing,
Right.
newspaper.
We had people accusing us of being funded by the RNC, which, if you've actually seen the REC in Alachua County, it's pretty much non-existent. And then they look at our site and think half of our political ads are from Democratic candidates.
Yeah.
More than
mean,
half.
Yeah, our politics at the local level doesn't matter. I mean, we pretty much all want the same thing. We want good schools.
Yep.
We want good roads.
Right.
And we want safe, right?
Yeah.
We want police and fire, everything.
And we want it to be
and
efficient
it's like
and low cost. And
yeah, that's not something that's political. The
Yeah.
problem is
it's really not. I mean, right left. It's not right left.
yeah,
Right.
and the problem is that the city and county commissions are so far onto their national agenda that they just ignore those things. I mean, look at the roads in Alachua County. You can define the borders of the county just by the roads itself.
I actually, funny that you say that because I think I've actually talked about this before, but
Yeah, we talked about that with Tim. Like, where there's like a certain spot.
there's a
on
line.
yeah,
There's a line out on the way to
where all of a
Gilchrist
sudden
County.
everything just like
Yep.
levels
I
out.
was camping out at Hart Springs this past weekend. That was why there was no show this last week, and I laugh when I hit the county line from Alachua to Gilchrist because
Yeah.
it's just bumpy. I mean the things are shaking off the shelves in the camper, and then all of a sudden you hit the Gilchrist line, and it's just smooth as can be.
Yep.
Smooth as glass.
So the other thing people can do, you don't have to have an ad on our site.
Yeah.
You can set up if you just want to go. If you go, there's on every single page. There's not only is there the box where you put in your email address, but there's a box that says donate.
Support Alalchua
Support Alalchua Chronicle, and you can set up a monthly donation for any amount. You can do it if you want to do $10 a month, as if it's a newspaper.
What about $1 million?
But if anybody, if there are people out there who think what we're doing is important, so when we started this, we thought that those people existed.
Yeah.
That there were people that would think it was important to have a competitor to the Gainesville Sun speaking up for principles that are important to people on the right. Like we said, we don't get into gun control unless the city and county commission are getting into it. We don't get into abortion.
I don't think we've written a single article that uses Trump's name.
We do not mention national politicians unless again, city and county commission, if they use it in a quote, but we don't get into national politics. But we stand up for good government, right? For non-corrupt government, for rational decision making that's based on data and not emotion. So because of all this, if you support that, we thought there would be people who financially supported that. There are tons of people in this county that give a lot of money to Republican candidates. They won't talk to us.
We
don't know why.
Why not?
I think they just don't know who we are. But
we underestimated the level of apathy.
I think that's right.
In the county.
But people can certainly, you don't have to put an ad on our site. If you're a business that wants a pro-business newspaper standing up for businesses, standing up for the police department, standing up for the sheriff's office, pushing back against the whole defund the police narrative. Len wrote an excellent op-ed a couple weeks ago about the police.
Defund the police is that.
If you
do
support
a whole
all
other
those
show
things,
about that.
You can just go in on hit that sponsor button, support us button, and just send us money. You don't have to put up an ad. If you want to, we're happy to.
Yeah.
And if you do, we get 5,000 views a day.
Sounds like we need to get a Porchville ad over there. I don't know.
You should.
Well, guys, we are about at the end. This has been 2 hours. It goes just
we'll have to come back
quick.
to the movie episode.
We're gonna have to. You have to go watch the Goonies. Then we're going to reconvene and talk about that. AlalchuaChronicle.com.
Right, or Alalchua Chronicle on Facebook.
On Facebook. And I've been a part of that. I've seen the debates going on there. So,
the comment section gets pretty fired up.
It does.
In fact, people tell me that sometimes my articles are too mild-mannered because I just say what happened.
Yeah.
And I said, don't worry, because my commenters, my followers, they will say what needs to be said.
Is it just you guys right now?
It's just us.
Just us.
We
just
almost
us.
had an intern from UF.
She lasted one day.
That was it?
No, I mean, I met with her. We talked about everything, and the next day she called me. She's like, I'm really sorry, but I got an editorship at the Alligator, and so I don't have time to do both.
Bummer. Well, we are definitely going to be in your corner and following progress and I hope that you guys feel anytime you want to come back and let us know what's going on, and we're happy to work together with you guys to keep.
Now you guys are working. You guys
sanity.
are definitely working hard on everything, and I think that's awesome.
And we want to keep the sanity in politics and local politics, because things have just gone a little off the rails.
All I can say to local citizens is I understand that you feel like your voice doesn't matter because you see what's going on in these commissions, but it does.
Yeah.
You can't, there's only one person who calls into all these meetings and speaks against what they want to do, and that's Nathan Scopp. Everybody else,
that guy's on top of it.
He is there for every meeting, but everybody else that calls in is like, oh, you guys are so wonderful. I just love please defund the police more. Please do this, please that. And they want them to do all these national things, and hello, I'm so-and-so with Socialist Alternative, and, obviously we know where they're going.
Yeah.
But I'm saying your voice does matter. They may not, the way I've heard it expressed is that if there is a commissioner that's leaning toward voting against the rest, having some people speaking up for that option gives them the cover to do that. If it's only leftists calling in everything's going to continue to go their way. We have to speak up. We have to organize. We have to run candidates.
Yeah.
You don't win if you don't run candidates. But there's no elections coming up for a while. So speak up, email, call in, pay attention.
What
please.
was the thing that Poe said today, that we have to do this while we have this commission?
Yes, he said. So City Commissioner David Ariola was whining at the end of the meeting last night because they'd gone on for like 10 hours on Zoom. And he says, it's really exhausting to do hours and hours on Zoom. And we should be more worried about the mental health of our employees. And, so I think we should minimize our meetings as much as we can. And Mayor Lauren Poe just said, he said, we've got a lot to do. We got a lot of goals that we want to accomplish here, and we need to do it while we have this commission.
Lauren Poe.
Fundamental transformation of Gainesville.
Yes. They're working on it hard.
Alachua.com, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Lennifer, Len and
Lennifer
Cabrera from the Alachua Chronicle. Get over there to Alachua.com. Check them out. Find us, PorchvillePod.com. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hit subscribe wherever you go and listen to your podcast. Make sure you leave us some love. Send us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. Make sure you get over there and take care of your mental health and all this crazy stuff that's going on, kids. I'm Nick. That's Matt. Jen, Len, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys very much. Porchville Pod, we'll see you next time.